So the other day, I was filming the video about making these sanding blocks, and there's a little scene that I left out. It was in here like this, and I had the pedal on the floor, and I was kind of coming in to show the camera, and but it broke. There's a disconnect between the motor spinning and this little shaft spinning. So the shaft broke in here. Luckily the shafts, the replacement shafts, are fairly inexpensive. I get these from Lee Valley. Just to clear it up, I have no affiliation with Foredom or Lee Valley, just great tools. I featured this on a Tool Time Tuesday previously. And then also they have sponsored this channel once with a giveaway. They provided one of these for me to give away. And I believe that was for our 100,000 subscriber, I think. Anyways, my wonderful wife was in the city the other day and she picked up a new inner shaft. So we're gonna go ahead and take this apart and I'll show you how you clean this thing up. The one bummer with this is that I had just finished a little bit of routine maintenance. Like, you're supposed to go through I think it's every 20 to 30 hours of use or something. I don't know, look up the manufacturers, they'll tell you for sure. But you're supposed to go through and re-grease your shaft and look after everything. I had just done that maybe like an hour of use ago. So it's kind of a bummer that this happened now, but I'm grateful that this thing broke rather than like kind of spinning up. It could have like really twisted my shirt together and like, ah! So actually I have mine mounted on this eye bolt here, and then I just take this little arm off and kind of hang it there. So we're gonna remove this so that we can easily just set it on our workbench and get at it like that. Put the screw back so we don't lose it. It's always the worst thing. Sometimes, you know, you take something apart and blah, 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 you do your repair, you go to put it back, it's like, oh man, I'm missing some of the fasteners. You know, one time I did a clutch job. I had a old Honda Accord. It was like an 80, I think it was an 86 or an 83. Love the car, but I was doing a clutch job on it, put a new clutch in it, and when I went to put it all back together, I ended up with eight bolts left over. And that's a lot. Now, the car went on, and I knew of its existence. I probably owned it for about 1.5 years after that. I knew the person who owned it 3 years after I sold it to him, so there's about 4.5 years that I know of that this thing ran like a top, missing eight of the bolts. Essentially, I turned it into a performance car. I took off some unnecessary weight that the Honda engineers, they thought, oh, you need all these bolts. Clearly we didn't, and we lost that weight. We shaved that weight, thus making the power to weight ratio better, increasing the car's performance. Anyways, that's what I told myself. Okay, let's have a look at what we have. First, I'm gonna unplug it so we don't have any mishaps. So the first thing we want to do is take the sleeve out. It's just this little screw right here. And there we go. There's our little busted piece. Now, let's remove this whole thing. So essentially what these things are, it's this inner core that's kind of real flexible, and it's got a spring on the outside. And I think that spring actually kind of acts like a bit of a bearing surface as well. And this is basically the inner shaft. Now we want to take this part and open it up. I should have read it. See, it says remove that way. It's got a left-handed thread on there. Alrighty, so there we go. Looks like we're just gonna need to remove this. Well, there we go. Okay, so here's my new shaft, all in one piece. See the outer sleeve there? This part slides in it, and then, so there's the little step, the little shoulder, and of course, that's going to help seat it right on this little step here. So it's fairly goof-proof, you know, it's hard to mess this up. I like it when things are designed. I mean, for something like this, they pretty much have to design it that way, right? You have to make it fairly simple. So what we're gonna do now, I've got my Foredom flexible shaft lubricant. We need to lube this thing up. The good news is, like I mentioned, I'm fairly well practiced at it because I just did this one. Oh well, it's garbage. I don't want to get dirt in here, so All I really want to do when we're greasing this up is put a nice thin little bead all the way down this thing up until the last 6 inches from the end or so. Right, so you see I'm not getting too crazy with it there. Just a nice little bead. So we don't want to get the last 6 inches or so. What we'll do is we actually hang it, or we just kind of leave it without a handpiece on it, and we just let it run for a few minutes. And what's going to happen is this grease is going to warm up, it's going to swirl around the entire shaft, and then the excess is going to start coming down and just falling out the bottom. So we'll put like a little catch pan or something, a little bucket underneath there. That's basically how this thing goes down. So put this on here, get it pushed up as far as it'll go. Tighten it up. I wish they had Allen screws on here, but I guess there's no real reason. Silly old left-hand threads. Don't need to get crazy, just snug it up. Now we can go ahead and fit this through. Okay, so once we've got that done, we need to make sure that we have 3/4 of an inch of this shaft sticking out. And the way that we can adjust that is by moving the outer sheath in and out. And that's about 1 inch, so that's a little much. So we're going to pull this back. That is 3/4 of an inch on the nose. So we'll tighten that up right there. Cool, I like that. We can just check to see how well it fits in. Okay, so now we'll hang this thing up again, and then we're basically just going to leave this thing hanging down, and we'll run this and let the oil start warming up and start flowing down, and all excess oil is going to come shooting out of here. Makes a bit of a mess, but it's a good way to know for sure that this entire inner is coated with grease. Okay, just like this. Just put in these little screws. They actually have a stand up on them, so that even when you tighten it up, it can still swivel. Plug it in. Oh yeah. It's exciting. But now I can just kind of let this thing run. And the more it runs, the oil is going to flow all the way down there. And then once we see the grease shooting out of here, we know we're good to go and this thing's ready for use. There, now we got all that grease shooting out of there. There. So you see there's some of the grease right over there, right here. Now we've basically got the grease, and that's why we kind of leave the last 6 inches or so ungreased, so that we know when it's all come down to here. Just double check, make sure it's all pretty much gone. Yeah, I'd say we pretty much have all the excess grease out of there. Now, we're good to go. Well, with all that grease in there, we are ready to rock and roll. Just slap on a handpiece of our choice. Just need to line up. Love it. You know, this is a tool that I'm surprised how much I use this thing. There's so many of my processes that I used to do different ways, just somehow different, that I've been able to adapt to use this. And the thing that I love about the Foredom in particular is that it's got the control, right? With your variable foot control, you can control the speed. It's got the speed, like it goes fairly fast. What's the max RPM? 18,000 RPM. So you've got a decent amount of speed there, but then also the power. This is a 1/6 horsepower motor, and that is actually quite a bit. When you think a lot of people are running their belt grinders on 1 horse, I mean, my belt grinders are 2 horse. 1/6 horse is actually quite a bit to have in a little keyed, like a handpiece like this. Now when this thing had failed on me, I actually had to switch up to another Dremel type tool. It's not Dremel branded, it's a no-name brand, but basically the Dremel size. I couldn't believe how underpowered that thing was compared to this. I mean, I'd be doing even just a real light process with the diamond file, and I had to be careful because I would stall that thing out, whereas I can use this with a rotary burr, and I can't stall this out. I mean, I'm just like, it's incredible how much power these things have. Just a phenomenal tool. I'm super excited to have that repair done because that is a tool I use all the time. Now, I'm gonna put a link in the description to the original Tool Time Tuesday I did about the Foredom. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. And as always, I thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Oh, so good to have this back.